All right.
Solid start.
Yeah.
Solid start, guys.
You were very into it and businessy, and you told us exactly what was going to happen. And then
It's the
you
pen. It's the pen.
went to start,
Fine.
and you were like,
Hello and welcome to the right now.
"Hey guys, it's your boy."
Oh, funny. Hello and welcome to Right Now at the Comedy Club, here at the Comedy Club at Kansas City. I am your host, Dustin Kaufman. With me this week, we have the very funny, the wonderful Mr. Ron Funches here.
Thank you so much. What about credits? You got credits?
We got every credit. You have every
Go.
credit.
But specifically.
All right, his credits are his opener this week, his friends with him on the road, Mr. Gabe Dinger. And,
What are my credits? That's even harder.
Your credits are Ron Funches and Mr. Dayton Bissett is with us as well.
I get no credits.
You have no credits.
He's an author.
That's true. You are an author. What's your book?
It's Book of Suicide Notes. It's a happy little book.
You sell them after the show, so that's wonderful.
Yeah.
No,
Pitch of my merch. That's
you
awesome.
you have 1 million credits.
So give me 4.
Bob Burgers. Trolls.
Yeah,
I was just watching. Are you smarter than a celebrity?
No, 3. He's
with
got 3.
Travis Kelsey there, and I don't know everything else under the book. You have a wonderful podcast on Spotify, a pro wrestling podcast on Spotify.
No, I don't.
Is that you don't have that anymore?
That was a couple years ago. That was a contract situation, and then they went out of business. But so it was not a fault on my end.
The company you were doing it with?
Well, not Spotify, but it was a Spotify live thing, and they stopped doing the live platform.
Oh,
The
all right.
Russian propaganda company that was paying for his wrestling podcast went out of business.
Get Hard. With the-
Okay, you
There
found
you go.
one. You found one.
Once Upon a Time in Venice.
Yes, true. That's a deep cut.
I'm not Googling here.
deep
These
cut.
aren't on, so.
Yeah, I like that.
A lot. It's a pleasure. I mean, you're really building like a wonderful fan base. Very supportive fans. Your fans are great. They're
Thank
well
you.
behaved.
Thank
we
you.
haven't had to like kick anybody out all weekend.
I pride myself on that.
Yeah,
I
that's-
get that a lot from different club owners. They tell me that my fans are usually pretty smart people. They tip well. They nice well. And I had one person tell me that my fan base ate the most desserts. Yeah, they were like, "You're about to break the dessert record." I was like, "Yeah, like father, like son."
One thing I like to ask when comics bring their openers and stuff, it's usually like pretty tight-knit relationships and stuff. So, I'd like to know about how you actually met Gabe and Dayton and ended up bringing them along with you so much. Because I know they're like, it's like family. You guys really travel together a lot. I hear Gabe and Dayton talking like, I wish I was there with you guys and just everything. So maybe a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've known Gabe since the day I started comedy. I started in Portland and was doing open mics, and Gabe had been doing comedy for like a year and a half.
Yeah, like a year and a half.
Yeah, before I got there. And so he was kind of the elder statesman and was like deciding on when he would introduce himself to me. And
I think it was your first open mic. I think I came up to you after your set.
yeah, but what was the thing that you said to me?
Well, so at the time in Portland comedy, like it was before Portlandia, so there wasn't really a comedy scene out there. So you would see a lot of people start comedy and then quit because it was just not very rewarding at the time. And so I used to have this thing I would tell people who I thought were funny after I saw them at a mic, I would say the easiest thing to do in comedy is to quit, which I thought was like a poetic way of saying like, hey, don't get discouraged. Like it's going to be a tough road, but just keep it up.
Yeah, and I took it as he was like, give up.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that. We will do workshops at the club, like for beginners workshops and stuff. And one of the first things I try to do in these is talk people into quitting. Like, because like, you're the only person that's going to keep you going through this, you know?
And yeah, I thought I was being, poetic and motivating, but it turns out I was just being
he was a jerk.
22-year-old dickhead.
Yeah.
Jerk.
But through time, and I've known Gabe now for 18 years. That he's just my closest friend. He's been with me through every aspect of my career, watching me go from open mics to doing small shows and stuff. And he was there, when I first started headlining, he was featuring for me and stuff. And so to be able to take him to different places and to go to him see me on movie sets or working on different TV shows, but it's like his attitude never changes, and his ability to look out for me and make sure that if someone's talking shit or whatever, and also I've learned over time, the more I get successful, the less I can trust how people treat me. So I don't, if they're just nice to me, and I'm a very loyal and open-hearted person, so when people are really nice to me, I'm very I just accept that as face value. And so I had to learn to, instead of doing that, I usually just treat people by how they treat Gabe or how they treat waiters or whatever, people who they don't think they're going to get anything from. So a lot of times I'll be like, oh, that person's cool, and then Gabe will be like, they're actually a jerk.
They want something from you.
And then Dayton, we met here. Yeah, we met here at this club. He was just being funny, doing silly, funny jokes. And the longer I've been in comedy, the more I find that it's rare that you find a host that has these really fully formed jokes, and that they're individually themselves. They're not trying to pander. They're not doing the whose birthday is it? Da, da, da. Like Dayton was he had some silly jokes. He had jokes that bombed. He had jokes that did well, but they were all oh, this is a guy with his own unique voice.
Distinctly Dayton.
And just meeting him and how old are you now, Dayton?
24.
24, so you're 22, 23 when I met you?
Yeah, when would have that been?
Probably. I think it's probably right before you turned 23.
Yeah, probably 22.
So I look at him, I started when I was 23. So I was like, oh man, here's this guy, that was the age when I started, and I see that he has these fully formed jokes and has this skill set, a level where I think it was oh, he's better than I was at my age. And so I just really was man, I want to. And then he was just really kind and sweet and similar. Him and my son really got along, and we were talking about Danny Phantom and Kim Possible all day. So it just became a quick thing where I think me and Gabe even looked at each other at one point and was like, "Oh, I think we have a new member of the family."
Yeah. Thank you.
I love hearing that. Dayton for me is I can't tell you how proud I am and we are of him from the comedy club here. I think you have a lot of different families, and for me I have my children, and then I have my employees, and then there's the comic children. And as a club that's only been here for 5.5 years, and we've already had a handful of people who have started here and now are living in New York and just doing really good things, Dayton being one of those people. It's just, I'm always so proud to see him out, working with the comics that he's working with. And just when I heard that he's been opening for you a lot and he was going to be here this weekend, it's just another level of,
I really like this podcast.
Praise Dayton Pod.
Praise
Dayton. It's hard, I guess I imagine you'd see it a lot as a club owner, but it's a lot. It's hosting is a difficult job. You have to have someone that you can trust to run the show, not say something that's going to tank the show in the first 10 minutes, and then can still handle the whatever notes or things that they need to do, get their jokes in, know my credits, know what to say, and keep the show moving. It's a hard job, and I've found, especially over the last 5 years, that not that many people are doing it properly. They're really, I think, with TikTok and that stuff, that's the actual job of being a host, and running that show seems to be a lost art. So, which is one of the reasons why I don't tend to.
I think a lot of comics don't want to do what it takes to open those doors or to be, to go through those steps or these days as well. But we try to do a good job teaching our MCs and our comics to be a good host. Because if you can be a good host, it really helps you to be a great comic. And once you tackle those initial host spots, it opens the door to be a comic as an MC. Because there is that, stereotype in the American comedy audience where the MC is going to be newer, there's more comics, so it's going to be harder to get the laugh. So if you can come out and make those connections early, it really allows you to get those laughs throughout your shorter set as a comic while hosting. So we really do try to get our comics to do that, and part of that is getting them, like, who, as you mentioned, is anybody celebrating anything, any birthdays, not to have long jokes, but just to acknowledge them quickly. And watching Dayton talk to the audience for the first year was just hysterical because he was so timid and so scared. I remember, I think Tim Gaither was here, and we just were like, dude, just go out and do crowd work and be fearless. And he did, and it was he just nailed it. And ever since then, you could see that consistent growth from once he tackled those nerves of talking to the audience in those moments. So
yeah, it's a big difference to go from just saying your jokes, looking down at the ground, to being able to look at people in the face and stuff. Even for me, it's been, I think, doing jujitsu recently has really helped me even engage more to where now I feel comfortable digging into darker jokes or digging into things that I think will be a little bit where some people will be like, oh, I don't like that. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? I will fucking break your arm,
How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
It's coming up on 2 years now.
Okay. So you're a huge pro wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually you took the time to train to do pro wrestling. How long did you train for?
Originally, I trained for about 6 months at this place called Santino Brothers, which is like a pretty hardcore school in Southern California.
It's a real deal wrestling
school. It's a very
school.
real deal wrestling school, and I vomited a lot. And
they made you clean it up.
And they made me clean it up after, and I thought that was rude. Why am I paying you?
Take some of that money and hire a mop guy.
Yeah. But that was super serious. And so at a certain point, I burnt out on it because I was like, I don't really think I want to do this as a job. And when I would miss training days to go on the road, I was hurting other people's progress because then my partner had to find somebody else, or they had to go off on each other, which sounds fun. Yeah. I won't even say pause. Fast forward. Let's see where it goes. And so at a certain point I stopped and was just like, okay, I probably won't do this. And then I met this gentleman named Shane Thorne, who is currently in New Japan Wrestling. And at the time he was playing a character named Slapjack in the WWE. And I don't think he was having too terribly much fun doing that. And so on his spare time, I think he's now married, but I think at the time he was dating like an improviser comedian, and so he was taking a bunch of nerdy comics and just getting us in the ring and just being like, here, I'll teach you guys how to safely fall, and then we'll have fun. At the end of the class, I'll let you all body slam or power bomb me. And so it was less like my early class, which was all let's do 300 squats and then run, and then now we'll train, you know? And so I was like, oh, this is fun. And so I ended up doing a match that summer and having a blast and meeting one of my heroes, Too Cold Scorpio, who told me I was good at it. And then I realized I didn't need to do it again because I kept getting offers to go do it in like Arkansas for $75. And I was like, I don't think I want to do it anymore.
I already did this in comedy. I don't need to do it in another art form.
Exactly.
So now you're doing jujitsu. I mean, you seemingly have, accomplished a lot of very cool, what a lot of people would have on their bucket list. I like
to do a lot of side quests. Yeah.
Through animations. You've done pro wrestling. You're in the DC universe. Is there what would you like to do? Are there any universes you'd like to be in? Or are there things you'd still like to do?
I mean, I'm always open to everything. I'm never, like, as Gabe knows, I'm not like a super nerd where I'm like a general nerd. I like a little bit of everything, but I never were at a point where like, I need to be in this, or I would love to be in Star Wars or be in Marvel. What I think if something came up where it was like, oh, that makes this perfect sense, then I'd be all forward. But I think sometimes worrying about that type of stuff specifically blocks your blessings from other point, where you don't expect them to come from. That being said, though, I do want to like host a game show. I've hosted a couple of game show style things, like a cooking competition, and I really like it. And then Gabe and I really work together in that type of format as well with him. He's a great writer in that style, and I think my personality really works well for that. So I hope to do that. I really just love acting, and I just want to continue to get better at it and get better with my health and my body as well. So I like the way that I continue to look on screen, and hopefully, I mean, I just would like to continue to. I just have other people's careers who I look at and be like, oh, I'd love to style like that. And for a long time, it was like Patton Oswalt, who I like that he did so many different things, and they were always smart and fun and different.
He's so funny.
Yeah, and then also, but lately, like, I've just been real into acting and stuff. So I'm like just real into like style like Billy Crystal. I want to do like non-traditional leading man, like rom-com type stuff. I want to just push my skills as far as they'll take me, basically.
What does rom-com stand for?
Romantic comedy.
Okay.
You never heard that before?
I
Never
have.
heard that?
Okay.
I mean,
That you were going to catch us in a?
no.
You thought we didn't know what rom-com was?
I was
Yeah.
asking.
What's your game here?
I want the pen back.
Podcast over.
We're out of here.
That's funny. I think I would be doing our fans here in Kansas City a mild disservice if I didn't bring up your recent appearance on Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity, hosted by our own Travis Kelce. I say our own because we feel like we own him, even though we don't.
You paid for him.
Okay, our very own Travis Kelce. What was that? I mean, that's a fun show. Great performance, great appearances on that. I know the first episode, you actually coincidentally were in this position to help 2 out of 3 of the contestants lock in the $15,000. So that was pretty cool. Because at that, if once you get to 15,000, you're guaranteed at least.
Yeah.
So you help 2 people get to that, which is probably cool.
Yeah, it is. That's what really. Well, I mean, when I originally got asked to do it, I was just like, yeah, I love game shows and I want to host a game show. So please, just shows them that I work well in that format. B, I was in the middle of a divorce, so I was like, any money, yes. And then I also wanted to see what Travis would be like in that format. I had a morbid curiosity to see.
Did you know him prior?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So I was just like, man, who's this guy coming off the field playing sports, and he's going to come in, he's going to host the classic game show, and there's going to be all these comedians that all would probably want to take that job, right? And so how's he going to do? And even before it started, some of my management was like, oh, prepare for some long days. He's never done this before, but he crushed. He was like, I really learned that, like, the skill set that it takes to become successful in one field tends to transfer over. I think it's the amount of focus he has, the amount of dedication that he has to something. Like, he really, like, I was extremely impressed about how dedicated he was to, like, and it wasn't like it was working like gangbusters from the beginning. They were feeding him these like classic jokes and stuff, and he doesn't have that background, so he didn't know where the punchline was, or he didn't know how to deliver it properly, and then it would bomb, and I would like make fun of him or laugh or do something to bring it back around. And I think that's actually how we started to become a little bit closer, because he could tell that, like, oh, even if I fuck up, Ron's not going to let me look bad. Yeah, he's going to say something to get it back around, because I was like, oh, I know how that feels. I'm not going to, I've been new at things and never done them before, and I hate it when someone else is, instead of lifting me, I hate, like, when I tell with Dayton all the time, like, if he bombs, I'm not going to go up there and be like, oh, man, can you believe that guy? I'm going to go up there and be like, you guys fucking, what's wrong with you? This guy's amazing. I brought him. Like, you think I brought him because I don't think he's funny? You think I brought him? Like, he's fucking, he's, last time I was like, he's 23. What were you doing? I bet it wasn't going club to club telling jokes in front of people. So why don't you be a little fucking nicer to him? And I feel the same way with Travis. It's like, this guy's fucking working hard, and if I just like to be a positive anywhere I go, really. But at a certain point, it didn't even matter because that dude just started crushing and was just really good at it. You can see why he is, dating a billionaire. You can see all of it. And to go back to what you were saying, though, was that I liked the fun of it and the jokes of it. But what I learned was how much I really did like giving money from big companies to people, especially when they had these great stories about like families with autism or wanting to get married or wanting to pay for a new home. Or, there's
There was
one lady
one
who
guy-
wanted a BBL, and I was like, oh, I don't give a fuck now. You could win or lose. I'm taking this round off.
I know there was one guy. I think it was the first guy. He's up to $50,000. If he loses the next question, if he wins the next question, it's $100,000, and then he goes home. Or if he loses it, he only walks with $15,000. And he's like, I'm gonna walk with this. And like, I know Nikki was yelling, it's $100,000. It's one more question. And Travis, and I'm like, man, to this guy, that $50,000 is to most people, that is so much money. And I'm like, dude, just take the money, and he did too. And I'm glad. And then they showed the question. I'm like, oh, well, that's easy. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. That's how they get you.
You should have taken the question.
Yeah, that's how they get you. Because you get invested, you start watching it, and you're like, oh man, keep going. And that's how we are, because $50,000 still a lot of money to me, and so I get that. I get walking away, and there were some people where I'd be like, you should walk away. But then there are other people I'm like, you're smart as hell. Do it. Go. And I think that's also the fun part of the game show, because it's not even just like, what do you know? It's like, how much do you believe in yourself? It was a lot
the
of these
$100,000
things.
question, was it quote the Raven? Was that the
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, that was it,
And I'm
right?
like, never more. I'm like,
Yeah.
kids, I just won $100,000.
Yeah.
The answer was just nevermore.
Yep.
Oh,
Never
man.
more. Could you imagine?
Yeah, I would have gone for it because like 15,000 would have been enough money to change my life. So
Yeah.
everything else is just extra.
I
so
mean, I
would
always
go
just
for it.
use also my producer brain, like when I think about some of the background of the contestants, when I'm like, oh man, this guy, he got special need kids. They're not going to give him a super hard question. I literally start thinking like that. I have no idea what they're going to do, but
Right.
Yeah.
but I was like, no, they probably want him to win, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, go for it.
They're like, no, we don't want to give money. To
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we're paying a lot to Travis, actually. If you could just try to hold on to
That's
it.
true. That's true.
So he ended up calling you up and offering you tickets to the Chiefs game to go to Arrowhead while you're in town. How was your experience at Arrowhead?
Oh, he loved it.
That's
Right?
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, he's still wearing his hat. He hasn't taken it off.
I mean, it's probably the only weekend I'm ever going to wear it. Get the most use
Wear it all
out
over
of
the
it.
country, unless you guys are performing in Denver, then maybe.
Or
Yeah.
or I guess I guess Las Vegas.
Yeah, every time we
Yeah.
come back here, I'll wear it.
Yeah. Oh, it's just really fun. It's one of I don't really do much normally when we go out on the road. We tend to just kind of either have some project we're trying to work on, or I got an audition to do. Speaking of, you still have your thing that we need
Oh,
to do,
yeah.
right? And then
What do you got?
It's just it's a little movie thing. Some
Like an audition?
comic is making a movie in New York.
A
and
Mr. Woody Allen.
Are you playing a young Woody Allen?
Some comic from the 60s.
But it's nice because I brought my son, and when I bring my son, we tend to do more things, and so it was it's cool to go to the football game. And I'd never been to Arrowhead, I'd never seen a Chiefs game. I'm a big fan of greatness in general, so seeing like Patrick Mahomes and them live and Travis live was pretty cool to me, to just be like, oh wow. And then we were there, and they broke the touchdown record for the Chiefs and stuff. So things like that where I'm like, there's no other reason why I'm here other than the fact that I tell jokes and stuff. So it makes me really happy when I can, like, less for me, because as they know, I tend to not give a fuck about much and leave halfway through most things. But when I see how happy my son is, when I saw how happy Dayton and Gabe was, I get really happy about that. I tend to get happier about watching other people have joy than me actually going through it, which in some ways is a little depressing.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds...
I'm okay. I mean, like when we went to Vintage Stock, right? I was just like, I like all these video games. I like all this stuff, but like, I just feel, I don't even know if it's an age thing or whatever, but I'm just like,
I was going to ask about.
I'm content.
I got some protector cases for some card decks I have, collector decks that I have on display at my comic book collection.
Okay.
And my son got, what did he get? He got Malibu Most Wanted. He
on
got
DVD.
Army of Two, the sequel to Army of Two, and some other video game I can't recall. There he is.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this message
right
from our
now.
sponsor.
I think maybe from when we did the commercial, this might have been an option to wear in the commercial, and we decided to go against
Which commercial?
the Simply Spike.
Mm.
I love that.
Yeah, no, it was really cool because I got to hire my regular, like a person that I work with for stylist, and so she knows my style, and so she spent the whole budget that they gave her on clothes, and then they really only needed 3 outfits, and then she sent me home with the rest of them.
That's
That's cool.
awesome.
It's the best. It's one of the things that you learn.
Yeah.
That was years ago. Did I ever tell you about the Super Bowl ad that I filmed?
Yeah, and if it came out, you would have.
Yeah, the
Was it a Doritos?
No, it was a T-Mobile one, and
Okay.
the lady who was hired to do the speaking, she ended up having to leave early, and she never really nailed it, so they had me do it 3 times, and the director was like, "You're going to be the speaking role," and the producer's like, "This is going to change your life. Like you get paid every time this plays. It's a Super Bowl ad. This is a life-changing thing." And then that year, it was a Verizon ad. Verizon found out T-Mobile had hired Drake to do a commercial.
Oh, no.
So they canned my commercial and hired Jeff Goldblum to just do a monologue. And my commercial ended up being on Twitter. It still paid like pretty well that first time, but it never was like the national commercial
Dang.
it was supposed to be. But I had a wardrobe, and it was like cool. I was like, I look cool in this, and they were like, "We'll sell it to you for half of cost or whatever." And I was just like, "No,
Yeah.
no, I can't do that."
All right, we're ready? All right, I'm gonna...
Oh, we didn't get that? I love that.
We were recording it.
Okay.
All right. All right, welcome back to Right Now at the Comedy Club. We'd like to thank our sponsors at the Comedy Club of Kansas City. Just follow us across the board.
Wow,
just simply,
that's nepotism.
I know. Just simply at the Comedy Club KC. And you can go to the website, thecomedyclubkc.com, for all upcoming shows.
That's great.
The negotiating the cost of the ad.
How much am I going to pay me to do this?
It's a write-off. I don't care.
Like, I don't know if we're going to re-up the ads this month. Maybe if you give me some sexual.
Just do the ad. Just do the ad. Just do it. Not the Gatorade bottle again. No, no. I just want to promote the shows. We'd be nothing without each other.
Where was that episode of Mad Men?
All right, we'll do a quick roundtable question here. What are some of the jobs you guys had prior to doing comedy full time?
As a lifeguard.
Okay, you were
lifeguard.
alive. You talked about that a lot.
You look like a lifeguard.
Thank you.
Although
Yeah.
I would not trust you.
No, it kind of fell back in their faces.
It's a
Yeah.
bad record, but you do look like a lifeguard.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
I did it for about 7 years.
Oh, so that was like that was your...
You're a good swimmer?
Yeah, I could swim.
It's not confident enough. For his lifeguard.
Was that your only job? Was that your only job?
I mean, I worked at a movie theater
Wait,
for
what
a
if
month.
someone was
but
drowning?
it did happen.
And you were, and you were able to pull them out?
Yeah, if I worked at a wave pool, it was like a amusement park, and anytime you would jump in and save someone, they had to do paperwork and stuff. On your whistle,
Oh, you had a joke about this.
Yeah.
Because someone died at. I remember someone died at his.
They would give you like beads though if you save someone.
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
So I worked there for 3 years as just a regular lifeguard, and then that I had I think 52 beads around. So that's how many times jumped in to help somebody. Not all of it was like someone like fully. Like, they were just like, hey,
they just needed some help.
Yeah.
Like cramping up.
Get a bead for saving a life or killing another lifeguard with more beads.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
So that was your like primary job for 7. I mean, because you started comedy young. Were you Were you still lifeguard when you started comedy?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. So I mean, that was you said a life.
And that's been it.
Yeah, well, I worked at like any other job I had, I just had for like a month. Like I worked at a movie theater for like a month because in the off season, I felt like I had to get money.
Okay.
But yeah, and also at the same amusement park, we did the like Halloween haunt thing after lifeguarding, which was like a dress up scary and scary.
Were you at
people.
Oceans of Fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were we trying to not mention that name?
No, I don't care. I've already done too much damage talking about that.
He's already on the do not enter list.
The lawsuits are settled.
Gabe, what about you? What was some of your employment adventures?
I mean, I've done, since doing comedy, because I mean, I started working when I was 14 at a Winchell's Donut. But I worked at a Blockbuster for a number of years in high school.
That's so cool.
I hung drywall for like 2 months. I was very bad at that. I worked at a pizza restaurant. I worked at like a swanky bakery. I worked at a distillery in the bottling department. I mean, pretty much any sort of crummy job out there, I've probably spent some time doing it.
Fair. Yeah. That's a lot of that sounds similar. Man, first job 14 was busboy and McDonald's for a couple of years, and then a lot of pizza places and just delivering sandwiches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm an assistant editor for a comic book company.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
All sorts of odd jobs.
Yeah.
It's eclectic resume is what I like to say.
And Ron, you said you were 23 when you started comedy. So what were some of your jobs before that?
What was my first?
I mean, I know the one that you should talk about.
What do you want to talk
The
about?
job that almost killed you.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's the story.
Yeah.
Sorry, but build up to it.
Sure.
Slow build.
My first job was at Chuck E. Cheese when I was a teenager.
What did you do there?
I just made pizzas.
Okay.
Poorly.
Poorly.
There's an art to it.
Is there a way to make a good Chuck E. Cheese
Yeah,
pizza?
I think that's
well,
actually the requirement.
you can make them worse than they're supposed to at least look like the toppings have been spread evenly.
Right.
And I didn't know that. And I didn't know that. I was very heavy-handed.
You were center loading the
Yeah,
toppings.
center and side loading.
Yeah.
My butt crack was out all the time. Which probably was an OSHA violation. So I don't.
Hairnet over it.
Yeah, I lasted about 3 weeks at that job, and then I worked at a couple of grocery store called Grocery Outlet, which were like like off-brand grocery stores, and so I did that as a cashier for a bunch, and I think that's where I really learned that I was good at talking with people, because people would come to my lines and just chat with me, and even if no one was in another line, they'd be like, "No, I want to talk with Ron." And so I was like, oh, okay, there's some type of skill set I have with this. And then I worked at a bank call center for a while, which I hated very much. But that's probably where I started to realize I wanted to do comedy, because they let me make a sketch to kind of talk about dealing with stress on the phone. And I saw people laughing at this dumb sketch that I wrote about corporate bank shit, and I was like, oh, they're laughing. I don't even give a fuck about what I wrote. And what if I did write about stuff I give a fuck about? And then they were like, get back on the phones. And I was like, I think I'm quitting. And then while I was starting doing comedy, basically, my son was the breadwinner of our household. We're living off of his Social Security from him having autism. And then I worked as a Lady Liberty tax sign twirler, being a Statue of Liberty and dancing with a sign. And that I learned a lot about that from comedy, just to be fearless. I think that was my crowd work moment where I was like, oh, if I can dance in a freaking Lady Liberty dress in my hometown in front of people I went to high school with, and at the time my ex-wife's mother driving by me scowling, I can certainly get on stage and say what I want to say. And so I think that was a very invaluable time for me.
You were doing the sign spinning when you started, after you started comedy?
After I started comedy.
Okay, so then that just kind of gave you the, like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, doesn't sound so bad after that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was, doing comedy for a few years, but not making enough money to survive, so I needed to take whatever little jobs I could, but could drop at a moment's notice. And so that was, like, the only prerequisite to doing that job was you had to do it a half an hour for free. And so if you did, then they're like, all right, you'll do it. And so I got that job, did it for 2 seasons, and then as Gabe said, at one point I ended up getting, what's the name?
Botulism?
No.
It was flesh-eating virus, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that's way
isn't
different.
that botulism?
No. It's a staph infection.
That's it.
Oh.
That's it.
So different.
Herpes? Didn't it give you herpes? Vicious.
Isn't that what you
want
to share on this podcast?
The worst case recorded ever?
Aggressive.
I got a staph infection in my face, which
Ooh.
almost killed me. I ended up in the ICU for 5 days. But then in return, it gave me great skin. And I used to have a problem with acne and stuff. And then afterwards, it just gave me a full new level of skin. So, I mean, I almost recommend it.
If anybody can get a staph infection on your face, please take advantage of the opportunity.
You will possibly die.
Yeah, people in the comedy scene, they were like, Ron is going to die. We're never going to see Ron again.
It's possible.
Yeah, it was, I mean, at the time, it seemed like, but again, I don't think social media was as prevalent, so it's not like people were in constant contact, so it was just kind of...
How do you get a staph infection on your face? You just get cut?
In your face, and you're wearing a freaking dress that sex people wear while they dance and sweat in the street.
Yeah, and that hat's foam, and people are sweating in it, and bacteria's growing in it.
That's terrible. That's terrible. All right. Well,
on that note,
I don't know. We got we're doing this before the show tonight,
That's
so
fun.
it's
like that you not a trained host was helpful in that moment. I hope you make that a clip.
Well, I mean that's the end of this. I don't know where you go from there, man.
I'm glad you're not dead.
A little heavy for me.
Can I see that pen again?
Dayton would still be working at the wave pool had you died.
All right, we now go to questions from beyond. We've asked all of our fans on social media, and we have compiled a few questions for you. A lot of these are really good, and some of them actually sound very fan friendly too. Let's start off here. Brenda Fortier asked, "How did you first get into stand up?" With I think you just kind of described a lot. And was it a process finding your voice on stage?
Yeah, I don't like that question.
And I mean, your voice has definitely matured, but I will say, seeing Ron's first set, what was so impressive about Ron is he did have a very unique rhythm, and he wasn't afraid to take pauses early on, which I think a lot of young comics feel the need to always be filling, if there's no laughter, they have to be talking.
That's true.
And Ron also had a fully fleshed out bit his first time, not just some funny jokes, some funny things here and there. He had
Like a bit.
Yeah, a series of jokes that led to a larger bit. So, I mean, it was like above and beyond, like right out of the gate, like, oh shit, this guy's, we're all going to have to up our game.
Well, I think finding your voice too could I know when I hear that, to me, I think like, young comics try to find out their style as well. Like, I would try to do angry. If you're angry, or then you try this, and just going through the process to figure out what works best for you. Like, I'm watching you this week, and man, honestly, your stories are amazing. You're an amazing storyteller.
Thank you.
But I know that there's a process to get to that point, So, I mean, were you telling and trying stories out of the gate, or was it more just like, I mean, it sounds like you were already doing pretty creative things from day one with this.
I mean, I just been a fan of comedy since I was a 5-year-old kid. So, like, I think I had at least a preconceived type of what's the word I'm looking for when you're naturally good at something?
I mean,
Gifted.
Wunderkind?
Sure.
I was a Wunderkind.
Well, I had a natural gift at least hearing the musicality of it. I think like I knew when it didn't sound right. Like I didn't necessarily know how to make it sound right, but I knew like rhythm of jokes, and I knew when it did not sound like I hit the rhythm right. And I think that's always been helpful for me. And I think my biggest growth has been coming, and I mean, coming in multiple stages, but I'd say the early shifts were going from being like, oh, I'm going to write an abortion joke, or I'm going to write a fat joke or a weed joke. And I just stopped thinking of that. And I would just be like, I'm just going to write jokes. I'm just going to write whatever comes to my mind. I'm going to just jot it down, and I'll try it. And there's going to be no like, oh, I need to have this style or that style. And I think once that opened up, I realized who I was and what I liked. And one of my earliest things was that I realized that the job was a lot of repetition and working on things and saying the same joke a different way a lot. And so I realized I didn't want to necessarily go up there and complain a lot. Lewis Black was very popular at the time. Louis C.K. was very popular, and a lot of like angry complaining comedy. And I was just like, that sounds like it would be stressful on me to do that twice a night, for 3 days a week. That sounds horrible. And so it started with leaning towards writing what I love about what I love and what I care about. So a lot of my jokes are about my family, about just things that I truly care and love. And then recently,
it's interesting.
The biggest shift has been, there was a time where once I got a little popularity, where I was like, oh, these are the type of jokes people want to hear from me. They only want to hear this. And I would write some jokes, and then I'd go like, no, that's too harsh. They don't want that from me. And since my like divorce and a lot of stuff I'm going through in the jiu-jitsu and stuff has taught me to more embrace conflict. And so now I don't do that. I just like, I really thought that. And that might be a more darker thought for me, or a more shallower side of me. But I did think that. And so I'm going to write it down and put it down, and I'm going to say it. And that's been new for me. And I really like it because I get to see, and a lot of that, to wrap it all back around, came from doing that wrestling match. Because doing that wrestling match was the first time where I ever performed not just for laughter. Every time then, I always wanted the same reaction. But when the other guy's name's Tony Depp, and when he hit me and I fell down, and I heard the crowd go, oh, and I heard someone go, no, I realized I like that too.
Yeah, just the reaction.
Yeah. I like them caring about me. And so I started to be like, oh, I can write things that make people a little upset. I can write things that make you a little sad. And all the things are fine because I'm already have this skill to know how to make you get back to the laughter. And I think this hour that I've been doing kind of showcased that the most, where I'm telling these stories. I mean, like the John Cena bit in particular, where it's set up to be like, oh, I'm pretty sure at least a few of you are going to get upset by this.
Yeah.
And I prepared for that.
I love a couple of things you said inside of that. One the embracing embracing conflict,
Mm-hmm.
which is a total transformation in your approach from what you said, to going from talking about things you love, which a lot of comics do try to, especially with social satire, they try to break down the things they don't like and the things so I think that's a great approach. So for you, especially at this point in your career, just after been doing it and being so established, to say, hey, I want to continue to grow, I want to continue to change, and I want to continue to like experiment, I think is wonderful. And so you're not just going to stay stagnant, stay flat, and it's always, your fans are always going to have something new and surprising from you as a performer, and I think that's wonderful.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That helps me want to continue doing it.
All right, Ryan Radecki, do you still play Animal Crossing, Mr. Mayor? And if so, how's it going?
I reached a point in my life where I buy just about every game that I like, and so I end up bouncing from game to game to game. I played the newest Animal Crossing when it came out during the pandemic. It certainly saved my mental state during the pandemic. However, if there's anyone who is going to talk about Animal Crossing on this podcast, is probably this guy.
I knew that was gonna come back to me. Look, I put like 1,000 hours into Animal Crossing because I too got it during the pandemic, and it got me through the pandemic. And then Ron got the Zelda Switch, the OLED one.
Okay.
And he was like, I just wanted the controllers. Do you want the screen? You'll have to buy Joy-Cons. And I was like, yeah, of course. I had a Switch Lite.
Joy-Con, is that joystick controller?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't even know that. Wow, before I made fun of you for asking, and now I see why. I never thought about what the con was.
I just want our fans at home to be.
Yeah.
The con is joy.
Yeah.
It's not real.
That's true.
So I get the new Switch. I set everything up. I get it all transferred, I get my account on the new Switch, and I'm like, I don't need this Switch Lite anymore. Delete everything. Oh. Not realizing I hadn't renewed my Nintendo Online, and Animal Crossing, you have to do a specific step to transfer it to another Switch. So I completely deleted my island.
Oh my God!
I called customer service. I was like, "Is there any way
I want my island
to
back.
go around?" And the lady, like, I could hear it in her voice. Like, she even paused when she responded. She was like, "I'm sorry, no, it's gone." And I was just like, "All right, fine." And I hung up. And I was like, "I'm never going." Like, I had every flower. My Critterpedias were filled up. I had gone, like, I never switched the time to manipulate the turnips, but I would go on Twitter and find people in Japan who were manipulating. I had millions upon millions of bells. My girlfriend, when she got an island, I was like, hey, here's 5 million bells. Welcome to the island. Like, I was just so cocky about it.
Crossbreeding flowers.
Oh, I had all the flowers.
Just
all the
living
flowers.
his love. He loved it so much.
so
And
sad.
Now
if you know
I will-
Gabe, I just know him so well. Just because he's like, because it was during the writer strike, and you were like, I gotta save money, cancel my Nintendo Online account.
Yep.
Oh, Ron gave me a new Switch. Fuck my old Switch.
And the shitty thing, I still have that fucking Switch Lite. I still have it. There was no need for me to delete it other than some bullshit symbolism that meant nothing to anyone but me.
Oh, no.
So I went back to Stardew Valley after that.
Well, you're going to love this transition right here. As Gabe had to unfortunately move on from that Animal Crossing, we're going to move on to our next fan question here.
Segue.
All right, Brenda Sue asks, I first saw you on Busy Phillips' talk show.
Cool.
I know you mentioned game show. Would you ever want your own talk show?
No. I thought about that in the past, but talk show format in general seems to be pretty dead. Podcasts seem to have taken that completely. And one of the main things that you have to do in a talk show, and then I found out what doing my podcast for a little while until I changed the format, was you had to talk to people that you don't know and that you don't necessarily care about. And I'm not good at that. I want to do a game show that will hopefully spotlight real people and help me funnel money, again, from corporations to real people people, but if I have to sit and listen to the fucking Costco guys go boom or like talk to somebody who I don't think is talented, I'm not good at faking that. And especially over the last few years, one of my main things is like I love to truly be authentically me. I don't want to have to sit there and be like,
Our next guest tonight is a YouTuber who gets kicked in the nuts.
yeah. No, I like talking shit. I like no, that's not for me. But hopefully a game show, that is for me.
I have a game show idea to give you after the show.
Sure.
You just take it. All right, Billy Taylor said you worked with Bruno on Once Upon a Time in Venice. Do you have any cool Bruce Willis stories?
Yeah, the only really cool Bruce Willis story is that I heard mixed reviews on him. People always like, oh, he's mean or he's nice, but he was super nice to me, and nobody knew who I was at all. And I was playing a drag queen prostitute in the thing, and I wanted to take it really serious, and I looked good, and my laser shaved and looked nice, and everybody else didn't take it serious, and I was walking around in these high heels doing the takes on the thing, and then feet were hurting so bad. And then at a certain point, Bruce Willis was just talking to me, and then he goes, "Hey, just to let you know, this setup's on me, so they're not even looking really towards you, so you could take those shoes off." Like no one else, the assistant director, the things, nobody else came to me and was like, "You don't need to do that." Like he took the time to be like, "Hey, I know." They don't give a shit about you. The only person they're caring about here is me, but I will let you know you don't need to be doing that right now.
Oh.
And so I always kind of appreciated that. It was a very little thing, but I was like, oh, that's a cool dude who was just like, I'm going to teach you a little bit about this business in which you have to look out for yourself. Nobody's going to come in, and even though they know they don't see you, they don't care that your feet hurt,
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah. I mean, Bruce is somebody, I think a lot of people grew up watching and stuff. So
yeah, truly.
It's
it's one of those one of my little secret things that because not many people I think saw that at all, but I always think it's cool that I'm in a movie with Bruce Willis,
right?
In a scene with Bruce Willis.
Just another one for the bucket list.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah.
All right, Dano Connor asked, "What's the best thing you got to taste as host of Chop 420?"
Ooh, what's the best? Man, that was a few years ago, so it's hard for me to remember exactly. But I will tell you the best thing that came from that is that we now have a relationship with a lot of those chefs. I still keep in touch with Chef Wendy, Chef Chris, Chef Victor, Chef Mav, Chef Brendan. Like I still keep in touch with a lot of them, and now they'll come to my parties. They'll come and hang out, and then I tell you, having chef friends come to your party usually mean they gonna cook something.
And they're so nice because at a lot of Ron's like barbecues and parties, all do the barbecuing, and when they come, they're like, "Hey, chef," and like they treat me so nice, even though I'm just like a dude making burgers. Yeah. They're like, "All right, well, once you're done, we're gonna do this like shrimp thing that's gonna blow your mind, but thank you, chef." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, guys."
Yeah. Is there anything? Because we go to a lot of the weed food events that they throw.
Yeah, they do events in LA where they'll do like multiple course meals. I'm trying to think of.
I know Chef Wendy made those like ahi tuna wonton tacos that were infused with weed, and they were good. Oh, you know what I really remember is those lollipop lamb chops that they paired with that grape indica.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was tremendous.
Oh,
this is wild. It is so fun.
Yeah, it's fun seeing weed in like a super classy setting because like even in my wildest imagination of legal weed, like I never imagined like bougie weed, and to see people like in suits and dressed nice and eating these like 5-star like Michelin star chef
like a marijuana
meals.
cocktail party or something.
They take champagne flutes and they like put smoke in it, and you.
Oh my God. That's wonderful.
It's a beautiful time.
It is. It's so great.
All right. Just got a few more here, fan questions.
Sure.
Amanda Allen, on Loot, you're a Swiftie. Are you a Taylor Swift fan in real life? And if so, what's your favorite song? This is definitely a Kansas City question. So be gentle on your answer.
I'm more of a Kelsey fan than a Swiftie fan. After meeting Travis Kelce, I've never met Taylor Swift. But I tell you, that's a great guy, and that's a wonderful power couple. I do like a lot of her work, but mostly just in passing. I don't ever go like, oh, I know this song and then love it, and then but I will hear the song and be like, that's a great song, and I'm like, who is that? And they'll be like, it's Taylor Swift, and I didn't know. But is Karma a song?
I don't
Look back at me. That's the song, right? I think that's my favorite.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like Karma.
I don't. Okay, good. Karma. There you go. That's an answer.
I love that I'm the only one that could answer.
I couldn't. I honestly, and it's not.
Do you want to know a wrestling thing that would make you bring it back that you would know about Taylor Swift? That would be fun.
Okay.
Taylor Swift used to babysit Jeff Jarrett's kids.
Shut up.
Is that real? It's very real.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know what any of that means.
Jeff Jarrett's
I'm sure he's a wrestler of
wrestler.
sorts.
Yeah.
Wrestler, Nashville. Where's she from? Think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it happened.
His dad was big into show runner as well, and he took over and he ran TNA for a while. And yeah. All right. Regina Weinmiller, which comedians inspired you before you got started, and who do you admire now?
Sure. Inspired me before I got started. Easy. My holy trinity is Lucille Ball, Mitch Hedberg, and early Dave Chappelle, which I always feel I need to make that distinction.
I didn't care for his earlier stuff. I thought he really came into his own recently. I only like thick Chappelle.
But that's why I like, I love the nerdy. Whenever, like, before then, I would always see like
Nobody ever said this COVID special was his best work.
But there's one thing. I mean, the one thing I learned from this business, and what I won't put down, is that I talked to multiple people who told me that Dave Chappelle kept them alive and kept them feeding their family through the pandemic with his shows that he was doing. And so, even though I don't agree with some of his stances on things, I always try to at least have some type of respect for the work he's done and the amount of things he does provide for people, which is probably different than I noticed than comedians younger than me. So that's also a thing I try to stay aware of, is that like it doesn't take much for people who are like, I never saw Half Baked, I never saw this, I just hate this guy. And I'm like, no, there's more.
Yeah, there was a whole era where he was like so unique, and
then
so
he went
special.
through a lot.
Yeah.
I like that you look at that aspect, the keeping his friends fed, keeping people working and stuff like that, because that is something that you do. I mean, Ron, I can't find many faults on the surface. You really, like, you genuinely seem like a good person who cares about the people, not only the people around you, but people in general. And you're gonna step up for those you love, and that's admirable.
I
So.
appreciate that. I don't disagree with that.
The next question is from your ex-wife.
That's so funny.
It is really, I forgot to answer who I like now. Blair Saki, my friends.
Oh, she's so funny.
Yeah, she's the best. Laura Peak, I love her so much. I think she's super freaking funny. Let's see, James Acaster makes me laugh a lot. And then I always go by like who. Paul F. Tompkins. I never feel funnier than when I'm on stage next to Paul. Like there's just something about him that makes you feel smarter, makes you feel like he is good at setting you up. Like I always like working with Paul.
All right, and last question comes to us from this is a dumb name, Dustin Kaufman. Would you rather play for the Chicago Bears or wrestle a circus bear on Adderall?
I'd rather play for the Chicago Bears. We're not doing well. I can do something.
You're like, I can do something.
I can be involved. It's not gonna go well, but I'll play. I get a uniform. Are you serious?
They'll give you a uniform to wrestle a circus bear.
No. It's gonna look weird. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's an easy answer. Yeah, I'd rather be a Chicago Bear. I love the Bears.
I know you do.
And why does the bear need Adderall? I feel like it would be energetic enough.
Just to focus. I mean,
Yeah.
circus. I don't know.
Get at you. Yeah, to get at you.
Like
It's got math to do.
The bear's good at starting mauling, but he never finishes
I
it.
gotta just follow through.
He gets distracted while he's mauling, and so
It's got a turn paper due.
You got. Where do you want people to? Where can people find you?
Instagram is great. Just go to my Instagram, Ron Funch, and through that you can usually get cycled into any of my things and putting the clips out. Try to put a new clip out every day of something that I've done, whether it's stand up or TV or whatever. So it's an active community. Come over, or if you want to, we do have a Discord. You can play video games with me on Twitch, but you find out all about that through my Instagram. So come on over there.
Gabe, where do we find you, buddy?
I'm on Truth Social at Latter Day Chappelle Fan. Got 69. No, I'm on Instagram, Gabe Dinger. If just Google Gabe Dinger, I'm the only one.
There's no other Gabe.
It's just me.
And Dayton?
Instagram also, Dayton Bissett.
Is it Bad Lifeguard?
Yeah, at Bad Lifeguard.
Hey, good, 52B.
Yeah.
No, but you don't
Killed
hear how
2.
many he missed.
Lost 2.
You have a clip of. Do you have a clip of you telling about the person dying on your Instagram?
I do.
It's funny. Go check out Dayton's Instagram. Find that
It's
reel.
funny.
It's a funny bit, man.
Someone had to die for that bit.
Should I say it's not a funny bit? Don't waste your time. No, find everybody, guys. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful weekend. It's been a fun weekend. This is always, this is I think the third, fourth time. I want to say, and then I'll wrap up on this. I remember when we opened 2019, right? And shortly before COVID, but like about 6 months after we opened our doors, your agent called and said, Ron Funches is interested in working your club. And so as a new club owner who'd been working really hard just to even keep the doors open at that point, but keep the comics happy and work really hard for the comics, making sure checks don't bounce and everybody's taken care of and green room. So just at that point, early on, to get that phone call from me in the house, it really meant a lot, and it told us that we were in going the right direction. We were treating people well, and it was a big inspiration to continue to do so. That really was a moment we had early on. So
I appreciate that. It's a great club. I like coming here a lot, especially there's so many. I think people only want to perform in like LA or New York, and I think you miss out on one of the best parts of this job is really going from city to city and seeing how people really live and connecting with people. And I think Kansas City is a extremely unique and fun city to come to and visit. A lot of different types of people here. And then the fact that you guys have this club where, I've been to clubs lately where people drunk and passing out in the middle of the showroom and vomiting in the show, and then they don't kick them out. They're not trained in the art of what it means to be a performer. And especially as I've been really working on my hour, sometimes I'm like, I don't like bringing what I'm presenting to a strip mall and being like, oh, yeah, of course it's not working that well. This is not the right place for my art that I'm trying to do. But what I like a place like this is where it's like you feel able to really present whatever you want to do, try new things. Gabe will do the jokes that I don't like. Everybody feels open and happy. We've had really, really fun. We haven't had a bad set yet, but let's do one tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.